When people buy plants, they'll often ask, what is a good plant for a problem area, such as heavy, dense shade? This is a great question to ask, and it's a wise way to shop for plants, because the best way to have success in the garden is to select plants that are adapted to the growing conditions of the site, along with amending soil with things like organic matter. In this video, I will share with you some plants for heavy, dense shade. By heavy shade, I mean on the base of a north-facing wall, maybe on the base of on the north side at the base of evergreens, or underneath tall shade trees. So pretty heavy, dense shade. And remember, plants growing in shade caused by plants also have to contend with competition from roots. So here's some good plants for heavy, dense shade. Hosta, of course, are the go-to plants for dense shade. And it's mainly because they compete so well with tree roots. Not to mention there are numerous varieties available, and there's a lot of white variegation in the leaves of hostas. And that white variegation adds a touch of light to those dark, shady areas. But if you're looking for something a little bit different than hosta, here are a few ideas. Heliobor, also known as Lenten Rose, is a very low-growing spring bloomer, about 1 to 1.5 feet tall. A very early spring bloomer, one of our first. Its cup-shaped flowers actually face down, ranging in colors from white to pink to a light rosy purple. And they make a great cut flower too. Lenten Rose can bloom up to 8 weeks, but do be aware that this plant is poisonous. Variegated Solomon seal is one of my favorites, and it's grown for its green and white linear foliage that also has the benefit of turning yellow in fall. White tubular-shaped blossoms hang down from the leaf axils in April and May, and these are followed by a greenish-black berry. The 2-foot-tall plants prefer good moisture, but they are drought-tolerant once they're established. Solomon seal spreads nicely by rhizomes to form a beautiful colony of gracefully arching foliage. Brunnera, or Siberian bugloss, is another low grower at 1 to 1.5 feet. It has delicate, airy, blue blossoms that appear above the plants April to May. This plant does bloom best in part shade rather than heavy shade. Another rhizotomous plant, Brunnera spreads to form a thick ground cover. Japanese painted fern tolerates heavy shade, but it must have continuously moist soil, and so amending the soils with organic matter like compost is extremely helpful. The 18-inch tall plants have grayish-green fronds with a silver variegation and dark maroon leaf midribs, which really make a nice contrast. Another nicely spreading and clump-forming rhizotomous plant, rabbits tend to avoid Japanese painted fern for another added benefit. Lungwort is a clump former too, and it's valued more for its attractive medium green foliage with silver spots. Lungwort will grow about 12 inches tall, and it'll spread from 18 to 24 inches per plant. Drooping clusters of small, funnel-shaped flowers appear in early spring. The blossoms open up pink and then turn to blue. Bergenia, commonly known as pig squeak because when you rub the leathery leaves they make a sound that sounds like a pig squeak, has pink blossoms in April and May and a low rosette of glossy leathery green leaves with contrasting red stems. Like most plants, Bergenia perform best in moist soil high in organic matter, but this plant is very tolerant of poor soils. These were some plants that you can grow in heavy, dense shade. And remember, finding the right plant for the growing site is key to having a successful garden.